Hey everybody. So I wanted to get on here real quick. Um, of course, we're having a snow day in New York City, but we're on winter break. My school's on winter break, so it doesn't matter anyway, unfortunately. Which just could happen while we were in school. Anyway, we'll talk a little bit about the news. Okay, first of all, Beyonce dropped two singles apparently on February 9th. I didn't know it until Super Bowl night. Whatever. I'm here for it. Okay. 16 Carriages is my song because I am not the kind of person who always brings stuff like this up. When I tell you that song almost made me cry twice in a row, I am feeling that shit. Okay? That's number one. Two, Texas Hold'em. I feel like it's going to be another song that becomes a Beyonce song where, like, if I hear it enough times, I like it. The kind of effect she always has on people. But I'm here for it. I'm here for it because so much of what people consider country was gentrified, taken over by black blues singers, and then kind of claimed and used by white people throughout America, and not just Southerners. And to say that somehow this black woman, as many white people of course run to do, is taking away country, what they mean is, how dare you come into this white space and reclaim what has belonged to you? Miss me, okay? All the feelings and stuff. And not only that, they've been driving country with a fucking banjo. Y'all do realize a banjo is an African instrument, right? Okay, just you check your history. Anyway, shout out to Beyonce. Beyonce, you keep it going. But Beyonce, you doing kind of a lot right now. Because when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't take it. I'm still reeling from Renaissance and from the concert. But girl, you do the damn thing. You're doing the damn thing. You a singer, superstar, mother, wife, hairline, care, cultural, whatever the hell. Girl, you did it. Super Bowl halftime. Usher, I'm here for it. Shout out to the A. Shout out to repping us, even in Vegas. Um, Alicia Keys, messed up her note. But the bottom line is whether Alicia Keys hit them notes or not. Now, granted, when your last name is Keys, I do need you to hit your key. However, whether she hit it or not, she still got paid. So I'm not going to sit up here and give unnecessary attention to somebody who is living several tax brackets above me, so much to the point where they don't even pay taxes because we got fucked up laws in this country. So, girl, and go on ahead. And all y'all playing around like, oh, Swiss Beats, you let Usher hug your girl. The level of disrespect women endure for men just being in showbiz, they need to get over it. They know what comes with it. And the outpouring of somehow concern or belittlement when a man like Swiss Beats, who has been in the game since I was a kid, okay, like a small kid, and acting like he doesn't know it because he's not behaving insecurely, like Keke Palmer's baby daddy. Once again, he ain't paid to entertain the bullshit. He gonna get paid either way, him and Alicia. So slow your roll, slow your roll. All this policing women's behavior, even when they're stars, is disgusting. And I don't like it. All right, so anyway, speaking of disgusting, once again, racism can't help itself. People saying things like, Beyonce should let Usher have his moment by dropping two singles as if she's supposed to stop being a musician and an artist. Bullshit. And apparently it came out February 9th. I guess on Tidal or whatever. Nevertheless, who y'all should be mad at is the media for taking away Usher's moment. The media who decided they wanted to put Taylor Swift and force her down our fucking throats. Like we give a damn about speaking. Y'all want to go in on Alicia Keys. Taylor Swift can't hit a note. Taylor Swift literally goes around taking things, scrap-like things from Beyonce, not as in like influenced person, like, oh, I'm so influenced by her art, this, that, and the other. Like after Coachella actually existed and did, Taylor Swift decides to give a performance like 2 days later with a black college marching band style with all white people in it in pink outfits as if she had not completely appropriated a culture and a whole culture that exists in historically black colleges. It is not the same. It's part of it, but not the same as just having Greek fraternities and sororities on these white campuses. It's very different. People who are in the band, people who dance to that music, people in the black cultural space of an HBCU have created an entirely different culture. And then for you to appropriate it 2 days later because it was big for Beyonce is so within the white supremacist tradition of stealing things from black people. And apparently, and the thing is, all white people seem to be in on it. That's why they can write media pieces about, oh, how Taylor Swift is here and there. Usher has been a star for years. And the thing with black people is, when black people are big stars like this for a long time, that's not by accident. Black people like that have to fucking work and work and work. The bottom line is Beyonce works hard and consistently. You want to know why? Because black people and black women don't get paid the same amount as other groups of people. Taylor Swift, whose father was already rich and a millionaire, who, according to sources, her father bought the first 50,000 copies of her album, which was a marketing tool to make it seem like, oh, people are so into her. And then they just kind of create these mediocre white people and then try to force them down our throats. Get the fuck out of here. That being said, they stole his moment. The fake ass Travis Kelce for the fade, as if black men have been getting fades for years, is bullshit. And I don't watch football, and yes, I only watch the halftime show and highlights. And by highlights, I mean just stuff that happens to show up in my Google News. At the point in which that white man, Travis Kelce, is damn near fighting his coach. And this is one of those moments where you go, if that would have been somebody black, I don't care whether they won or lost. That would have been everybody's fucking business. Oh, he has poor sportsmanship. How dare he disrespect him? He shouldn't get a contract. The way the narrative changes when it's somebody white doing this shit is mind-blowing. It never ceases to amaze me. The kind of excuses white people get to continue their poor and bad behavior. Okay. Now, also, while talking about Usher's Super Bowl halftime performance, which overall I think was great. All these people talking about oh, it's mediocre. I swear to you, black people have to pull off supernatural tricks in order to get the kind of recognition and press they deserve. Y'all do realize there was no such thing as a halftime show until the time period of In Living Color, Michael Jackson. That wasn't always a thing. And then that became a thing. And yes, it's very much the least y'all could do is let the best black performers do it. Okay, these are people that had to fight. Michael Jackson, all people having to fight to get his video on MTV because he was black. Are you fucking kidding me? And we say that now, but that's after the sacrifices. I mean, Aretha Franklin was performing down to a few days before she died. Because black people have to continue to work, and that's the difference. Anyway, but yes. Do I think Luda is corny? Yes. But in the words of my cousin, he's been corny. I was just like, why is he giving this early 2000s, late 90s basketball, we wear the sweatbands, let our cornrows out kind of look, but whatever. And of course, we couldn't have a Super Bowl halftime performance by a bunch of black men without objectifying black women. Of course, after having classy performances, whether we like the sound of Alicia Keys or not, and from her, which was great. To have black women sliding down stripper poles. I mean, just for the culture, can't we just have some white women that y'all decided to objectify or just not do it at all? Just saying, had to say something. Jermaine Dupri, come to the front. What y'all are not about to do. First of all, I thought that was CeeLo, and I remember saying to myself, what song did CeeLo and Usher make? And granted, I can miss some songs. It's not like I follow Usher in the same way that I follow Beyonce or anything. And it was like, but I don't remember. And then as they got closer and I heard the song, I was like, wait, that's Jermaine Dupri. Jermaine Dupri. Sir, I'm here to tell you, I don't care how much money you paid for whatever designer shit, knit socks you had on. Let me explain to you, ruffle socks for Easter Sunday, okay, are still ruffle socks for Easter Sunday. You had on a little girl's church clothes. I know. I wore plenty of sundresses, Easter hats, and ruffle socks all my life, growing up in the South where it's warm most of the time, in my church shoes. And you were wearing ruffle socks. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. Bruh, don't do it again. Don't. Um, anyway, so something else. The stuff with Monique that's been going on. I know other people. I usually don't comment on stuff like this. Monique, yes. I don't want to hear this. Oh, yeah, it's the way she did it. It's the way she does it. She's the wrong messenger for it. The bottom line is everybody says that about somebody before it becomes a known thing. Particularly when you're from any kind of marginalized group, like a black person, particularly black women. And when she said, well, yeah, I'm mentioning these things, but she was like, I don't think people wanted to hear it because I'm a fat black woman. I agree with her. I think that's very true. I think I've always found Monique funny, and despite what other people have said, I still thought her Netflix special was good, and I think she has moved. It was funny, but I also think she's moved into the storytelling phase, which is no different from Richard Pryor, no different from Chris Rock with Tambourine and things like that. Part of black women being comedians sometimes, and even Erica Alexander has, said this, but she said it in a soft way. She was like, well, I think the problem with me was I was funny and I was comedic as an actress, but they typically saw black funny people as much bigger, or they had a certain depiction of it. And when Monique said that, one, I never doubted that was true, even before I heard her articulate it. But also because part of black women being comedians and being dark-skinned, being heavy, is supposed to be the joke. And that's why I know what she's saying is true. See, part of it is, the fact that you're fat is funny. The fact that you're fat and black is especially funny. Fat black woman, she can't be attracted to any other. And Monique has always been somebody I thought was beautiful, and somebody my mother would always say is really beautiful. And even as I was growing up, constantly reinforcing how beautiful different kinds of black women were. And I love that for me. I do. That I grew up with that. And I think Monique understands that. And so I'm never going to sit here and tell another black woman, especially knowing just as a black woman, and I haven't worked in Hollywood, but I know what it is to be passed over in your job as to train people that are going to be promoted over you regardless. And then you're left doing the best you possibly fucking know how. And people tell you this is all you're worth in terms of money. Why should she be any different? Why? These mediocre, talented white people make all of this money. And then black people are supposed to, you take what you can get. I mean, because you could be poor like these other black people across the country. Yeah, but we shouldn't be. And it ain't because, if we just had, we have collective buying power. That is not the measure for economic progression in any field of economics whatsoever, just so you know. So y'all been sold a bill of goods by believing that. Oh yeah, black people worth $1 billion because we don't do this, don't do that. No, it's not. It's because structural systems in place keep us having to pay more for the same homes or for different neighborhoods, less schooling, higher loan interest when you mortgage a home. So it makes it more difficult to pay for your children to go to college and FAFSA, if that is even still exists at this point, because the government is as slow as Joe Biden can walk. All of these things make a difference. Okay. Now, do I think people listened to Taraji when they saw her cry? Yes, but I think that's because Monique laid the foundation. I don't think that shit she's saying about Oprah and Tyler Perry is false. She called it out, and I know that you pay when you tell the truth. Because we live in a society where people get angry when you call out a system, or you call it out in a way that white people have not greenlighted. So I do believe that Taraji's getting underpaid. I knew those tears. I knew that frustration, that anger that you have done literally every fucking thing that they said you were supposed to do. You lived how they said you were supposed to live, staying out of, the media negatively, living a life where you empower other people, and you still feel like you are coming up empty, and you know you're not supposed to be, and you know this system is too large, too big for you to fight by yourself. And all you see in history are examples, overwhelming examples of the fact this has happened to black women over and over again, which was Monique's point when she first came out about that. Is that at what point do we say, oh, for the next generation, instead of saying, no, right here, we have to demand it. In the words of Frederick Douglass, power concedes nothing without a demand. So no, I'm not going to chastise any black woman for how she decided to fight for herself. Because the bottom line is if Monique hadn't done that, we wouldn't know about it. She would have been suffering in silence. And in the words of Zora Neale Hurston, if you are silent about your pain, people will kill you and then say you enjoyed it. And that's why you have to speak up. That being said, I want y'all not to mix these things up. Monique's beef and D.L. Hewley's beef with each other is to me not even worth the analysis of all the other things that Monique said. I remember when they first got into it, and I said, these two people, we now have two people arguing, both of whom are incapable of de-escalating a public disagreement on this level. This is just, they got a beef, okay? They have a beef. And there's such things as having a regular beef and then these systemic issues that come with Hollywood and structure. I feel like, honestly, it's just separate. I think both of them have an ego. Both of them got into it. I think both of them make points on both sides. I do think two things can be true at the same time. Monique didn't have to bring up his daughter's trauma and him not taking up for his daughter when it happened, because D.L. Hewley had already come out about that, admitted that he would have to deal with that for the rest of his life. Okay? And I do think it was re-traumatizing for her to bring it up. Monique bringing it up. But at the same time, D.L. Hewley had gotten on the radio years before and told us this information. That's not anything he had to share. He could have talked about his own molestation, which he has, but that's his business to tell. So, yes, Monique probably did re-traumatize her by giving it life again, but he gave her the rope to hang his family with. You were on Black Love talking about this kind of stuff. You see what I mean? So, when I say they have beef, and they have beef to the point where they just going below the belt, but that's what comedians do. So I ain't finna be stressed out about all this. I don't even think it's worth the analysis people are giving it. They will either figure it out, and they're the two people I do not think are gonna ever apologize to each other publicly. They'll just be like, okay, we over it. Or if that's gonna be the case, or they just won't be over it. But I don't think we're going to really get no real apologies from them. We might get those false ass, I'm done with it. How many times D.L. Hewley told us he was done with this, and then he got back on there running his mouth? Both incapable of de-escalating. Another Black history quote. Sort of, because I'm going to paraphrase it. Malcolm X said, if you're not careful, the media will have you believing that the people who are oppressing are the victims, and the people who are victims are not oppressed. I want y'all to keep that in mind every time something comes to you via the news. Because when that flood happened in Katrina, well, the Katrina hurricane hit New Orleans, and people were saying black people are stealing TVs, they're stealing DVDs, they're stealing all this stuff. And I remember being in high school, watching it on TV and saying that these people had bought Louis Vuitton stuff with their FEMA money. Turns out none of that was true. That when people were on those TVs and they were swimming, that was literally the only thing they could find in Walmart to try to find the people that they loved. And those levees didn't have to break. That's why one part of New Orleans was fine. And the fact that they never reinforced those levees and knew that those poor black people in New Orleans were more vulnerable to the next time a hurricane hit. As my father pointed out to me when I was in high school and I was watching the news, and they said, well, we did a cost benefit analysis, and that's why we didn't reinforce the levies. And my father was like, that's code for black people's lives aren't worth as much. This is before Black Lives Matter, because that happened in 2005. And with all the things happening now abroad, I want y'all to know that it's not an either or thing. So I saw the clip of the young man who was at Morehouse and took down the Israeli flag. And I also saw the professor, whoever it was on stage, who chastised him and then chastised other black students for not turning him in when he was making a point about how the Palestinians were being treated. And then I saw on HBCU Buzz, somebody commented, well, we have our own problems here in this country, and that's unfortunate that that's happening over there. Let me explain something to you all. When Martin Luther King came out against the Vietnam War, you do realize that almost to the date, a year later, is when he was murdered. Because he was making the connection that the same structures that oppress us here are the same ones that allow you to go into Vietnam and oppress other brown people across the world. And I'm not going to stand for that, and I'm going to open my mouth and tell you I don't stand for it. And Coretta Scott King did that on her own. She's the one who introduced him to that. So if you say these things, and you know that 10,000 Palestinian babies were killed over the course of 3 months, and you think, oh, it's political, I need to stay out of it, I want you to know that the same aid they seem to find in billions of dollars to send abroad to oppress other brown people is the same money that they find to overinvest in police departments that murder us, that kill us, that get police officers off, even with big $1 million civil settlements for black families after they've taken a life away, because they know that the other black lives that they took away, that those people didn't have as much money, couldn't go on in court for as long. They'd rather pay out you millions of dollars than to quit killing black people. When you saw all those tanks in Ferguson to come and get the protesters, when you could have just got them police that shot Mike Brown in the back over and over again. I don't know if he was shot in the back, but he was shot several times. That's who funded it. And Barack Obama being president doesn't let him off the hook for it either. Because that's the machine. You didn't know whether you were looking at Iraq or Ferguson. So this whole we have our own problems over here, sure, we do. And when we were marching out in the street, there were Palestinians standing on rubble, holding signs that went viral that said Black Lives Matter. That quote that went viral came from a young Muslim woman when they were complaining about black people protesting in 2020 about George Floyd. It was a young Muslim woman who said, well, they tried kneeling and y'all didn't like that either. It didn't come from an African-American person. And it didn't have to. So I'm not saying that every struggle you have to take up, no. But I am saying right is right and wrong is wrong. And if you look at that 1948 document of the United Nations defining things like genocide, you tell me who's right and who's wrong. And in the words of the South African, the words of Nelson Mandela, when he was interviewed over here in the U.S. and they asked him about his perspective on Libya and Palestine, he said, y'all think y'all's enemies have to be mine. We'll decide, essentially, this is what he said. We'll decide who our enemies are. And my enemies don't have to be yours. But don't think these things don't have world connections. So that's my piece. I hope y'all continue to do well. If you're in New York, just stay warm. And across the East Coast. I'll talk to y'all soon.